Hi, hello. Welcome back to Tech Talk Live. I'm Amy Masters, and today our special guest is Tracy Vinson. Hello, Tracy, how are you?
Hi. Good to see you, Amy.
Good to see you again as well. We actually just got to meet in person just a little over a month ago at Nail
Yeah,
Camp East
right.
in Clayton, Georgia.
Right.
This was the first time I'd ever been over there. So,
In
had
the
you been
middle
there
of
before?
nowhere.
Yes, and you drove it.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah, so how long of a drive was that for you to be able to make it to that
Um,
particular show?
guess let's see, from here it was about 6 hours.
Oh my goodness. I just
Yeah.
remember when you showed up, it must have been around the same time or whatever, and I remember seeing your vehicle, which is adorable
Right.
anyway. Yes, but it was packed, like, it was
Yeah.
loaded with,
Loaded to the
all the
max.
stuff for your booth, yeah, and
Yeah, we
so for me, I wanted to help you unload because it would be like Christmas.
well, we actually got there the night before, but it's such a curvy route up on that mountain that I decided not to come up there in the dark. So we stayed at a nearby hotel and came on in the next day. And I'm so glad I did because that was definitely challenging getting up to where that was at. Yeah.
It was so beautiful, though, it
It was
was worth
beautiful.
it.
It was worth the drive for sure. I'd
Yeah.
do it all over again, but I'm glad
Well,
I didn't do it at nighttime.
yeah, so let's just say we did end up getting there at nighttime, and part of that was because we did get lost, and the
Oh,
other
yeah.
part is our poor driver. I feel bad for Michelle Baker was the one that chose to pick us up. Katie Barnes and I, we decided that friends don't let friends puke alone. That's and we were a mess by the time we got there. We felt so bad for Michelle and respect that
Yeah.
she did that. But I agree. I can see why you made that choice. And,
Mhm.
if we ever go there again, which I absolutely would, it was beautiful. It
Yeah.
was it was a very windy up to get into the mountains
It
and all
was.
of that.
It was definitely windy. I had taken Dramamine before I actually started the route that day, so I'm glad I did, or otherwise, I feel like I would have been in the same position as you all
Yeah.
because I'm definitely a car sick kind of person. But that was some curvy roads.
Yeah. I think next time I'll take your advice on that.
Yeah.
So, hello, everybody that's joined in. Thanks for joining. Tracy and I today. So, Tracy, you've been in the industry for quite some time. And I have a feeling that everybody knows who you are. And it's kind of an honor to have you on here as Tech Talk
Aw.
as with the interview. But with that, I kind of want to go back and just let everybody hear your story and then kind of see where you are today, because I think that's what we more
Yeah.
know. So,
Okay.
what got you to bring you into the nail industry?
Well, I'm a late bloomer. I've only been a nail tech for 7.5 years. So,
Oh my goodness.
yes, I'm almost a newbie. But prior to that, I was a music teacher. I had taught music since in my teens, probably. I have a PhD in piano pedagogy, so it's all I knew. It's all I was born to do is music. So, played the piano most of my life. And when my kids got a little bit older, those late teen years, I saw then that, hey, I really need a side job to make a little money to help put these kids through college because I was going to have two in college at one time. My girls are only 18 months apart. So, my youngest daughter had taken violin lessons for quite some time, and she was on track to have a scholarship somewhere to go to college, play violin for them, and she gets to go to school free. All I'd heard was Juilliard, and when the time came, then she wanted to go to hair school. So my husband, who is a pastor, by the way, he takes her and enrolls her for hair school, and they don't tell me anything about it.
Oh,
So that not because they knew, both of my girls, I had invested music talent in them. They could both play piano, they could both play other instruments. And she was following in her mother's footsteps by going to music school. So that night, my husband's like, now we did something today we need to tell you about. And that's when they had enrolled Rachel into hair school. So we're like, okay, we're just going to run with it because she's young. I had homeschooled both of my girls, and she was still young enough that if she didn't like hair school, she could go on and use her music scholarship, if that's the path that it took. So she gets into hair school and absolutely loves it. She's like excels. She is top of her class in hair school. And I don't know how they do it other places, but here it's kind of like band. The best person gets the first chair. You know how that is?
Oh,
Only
yep.
I'm the first chair trumpet player. She
Mhm.
was the first chair hairstylist because she just excelled. Her talent was just fabulous. So when she got in hair school, I enrolled in the nail school, not full cosmetology. I thought, okay, whatever. Maybe I can make a little extra money doing the nails on the side with my music career. Um, and of course, I finished a lot sooner than she did. The state of Virginia only requires 150 hours for a manicurist license, which is nothing.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and the lady that trained me actually runs a spa quite a distance from here. So all I got was enough training to pass a state board. That was it. From
Mhm.
there, you know how we are. We self educate, we whatever. So that's kind of how I got into the beauty industry, is through my daughter, which
Yeah.
I thought was going to follow my footsteps. And instead, I followed her footsteps. So, my girls didn't grow up with anything they wanted. We were tight financially. Um, Tangible things. I can't imagine my kids now being that age then, because they wouldn't have cell phones and all that kind of stuff. They didn't have that as teenagers. But what they did have, Amy, is they had a lot of love from us, and they'll even tell you that they know how to budget. Um, and it comes from having to live kind of tightly, at a certain
Mhm.
time in our life. So that's how I ended up doing nails, is there. And I'll never forget, I couldn't really afford to rent a booth anywhere. When I finished nail school, I'd spent $1,200 on the class, and then you have to buy what, $1,500 worth of product or more to even take a class, and that was really
Yeah.
money that I didn't have, that I had to take from somewhere else. So it was a challenge. It was tight to even go to nail school for me, but I did it.
Mhm.
Um, so when I got done, I'm like, oh my goodness, I've spent more on this class than what I thought I was going to. Let me just see if I can go mobile and get a few clients that way. I'll just see if I can make back what I've spent in product. I had no intentions of doing this full time whatsoever. 6 weeks after I got my license, I had already matched what I was making teaching music. So I
Oh
was
my
working.
goodness.
I was working during the day, my other job. I'd get off at 5 o'clock. I would be at somebody's house by 5:30, and I would run mobile calls. This is no joke. There were nights that I stayed out till midnight doing nails. So in 6 weeks' times, my husband and I were talking. I'd already matched my income, and there were people waiting with me that couldn't get in then.
Oh my,
So I
it
gave my
is
notice
crazy.
for my job. I had to. So I gave my notice, had almost a full clientele. 12 weeks later, I doubled my income and had my first staff member. So it was a while. I did that for 3 years, just had my nose to the grind. Look, I didn't even know a Facebook group existed for nail techs because I was so busy servicing clients.
Mhm.
I was a nail tech for almost 4 years before I knew there was a trade show. Like
Oh
I
my
was
God.
Yeah, I was just out on my own. I was watching YouTube videos. I didn't know there was continuing education for nail techs. I was a naive nail tech who had a little bit of talent as far as artistically could go. So I'll never forget the first client that asked me if I could paint a palm tree on her nail because she was going to the beach. And I said yes before I thought anything about it. And then I panicked because I'm like, oh, now what do I do? And I did it, and that kind of sparked a whole different side of my business then. So for a long time, I was probably in business 5 years, and I couldn't figure out if people kept having me back because I was mobile, because I could probably paint anything they wanted on their nail, or because of our sanitation. And it turns out it was none of that, because I found out that long before I can book the appointment, I have to establish the relationship. And that's
Yeah.
what it was all about. Because I look back at the nails I did 7 years ago, and they weren't that good, but they
Yeah.
were better than they could get anywhere else around here. Okay.
Yep.
But the reason they kept having me back was because of the relationship that I had already established with that client. I'm friends with all of my clients on social media. I know some people say they're not, but I am, because I like seeing their kids graduate, and I love seeing I've been invited to their kids' band concerts. I've gone. I love stuff. I love people. So
Yeah.
that's not an issue for me, to be friends with my clients. And that's how
Mhm.
it kind of all got started for the mobile manicurist.
Oh my goodness. You've been
Yeah.
a powerhouse from the get-go. And it's interesting because so many times we talk about the education that we got. So
Hmm.
you had 150 hours. I had 450 hours
Yeah,
and still only had enough education to pass state boards. I
exactly.
If it wasn't for me, my mother was a hairdresser, my aunt was a hairdresser and all that. My cousin was a nail tech, so I knew about the beauty
Hmm.
industry, and I knew the business side of the
Right.
beauty industry of what to do. And so it is so hard that when you first get out, you're right, you can't afford the booth rent. You don't have the clientele yet. You don't quite know where to go. Mobile's a good way, but then it's hard because you are in their home, their
Yep.
kids, their dogs, their chaos
Oh,
is now
yes.
in addition to your, trying to pamper, your chaos. And
Yeah.
so you made it work. I think to me, mobile is one of the hardest ones to do because you're having to
Yeah.
go to them, set up in their home, do all that. You made it work.
I
And
thought the first few weeks I did this full time, I thought I would literally die. My shoulders hurt, my neck hurt, my back hurt, because you think about it. Imagine doing every service that you do in your salon and packing up all that and unloading it for every client. And then you're sitting at a different table height every place you go,
Mhm.
because I wasn't about to take my own table. I had enough other stuff I was trying to pack around.
Right.
And you sit on the floor to do all of your pedicures. So even after I worked, I don't know, 3 or 4 years before I even found something that I could sit on that was comfortable, because nobody makes equipment for mobile nail techs. It's that few and far between. So I was using things like scrapbooking bags, any type of organizing tote with all these little pockets. That's what we carried our stuff in. It's all we had. We
Yeah.
made it work. But thank God, while I am still the mobile manicurist and own the mobile manicurist, because I'm mobile all over the country now. I fly everywhere and train people all the time. So that's aspect, I am still mobile. We have opened our first brick and mortar salon in January.
Yes, that's just recent. I remember
Yes.
watching it on Facebook. Yes.
Yes, and we gave all of
Congratulations.
our clients the option of coming with us here, and 100% of them, even our people that need somebody mobile, like our little ladies that are taking chemo and that have physical disabilities, they're like, you know what? We're not letting anybody else do our nails. And so when we opened this salon, we don't look like a salon from the road. We are not any place that's on a beaten path where you can just walk in. We didn't want that, actually. We wanted a private space that you have to make an appointment to get in here with us.
Yes.
And there are no steps. You pull right into the parking lot, walk right in the front door. We renovated an office complex for this particular for our salon here and our training center. So that's the way we like it, because
Yeah.
we don't want walk-ins that typically walk in another salon and get an $18 manicure. Because number one, we don't give $18 manicures, and secondly, we don't take walk-ins. We want
Yeah.
it to be a private, one-on-one um, experience for our clients. Our nail techs here are not um, seat. They each have their own little private suite that their client is escorted to. So it's that nice privacy that somebody that's self-conscious about their feet, they don't have to sit out in the open and have their feet done with someone else sitting 12 inches away from them. So we put a lot of thought into this, and people ask us all the time, well, why'd you do that? Well, you try being mobile for 8 years and see if your back is still going to hold up. I was to the point that I was either going to have to stop doing nails, period, or was going to have to come into some place like this because my body would no longer hold up to the volume of mobile clients that I was seeing a day.
Oh, yeah, and like you said, pulling your product in and out, and
Oh
you know
my word.
what?
Yeah.
Anytime and look at the product loss that you get as well,
Yes.
and then the liability you have if you spill something in
Yes.
somebody's home,
Yes.
and then, like I said, I remember for a short time, I would go to clients' houses more if they were ill or,
Mm,
recovering from something, or they got elderly and couldn't travel to see me, I still went to see them, but then I was dealing with a whole lot more. Their
yeah.
dogs jumping up on our laps and, just there was just extra, and I thought,
Everything.
I want to pamper these people, but I feel like in
No.
their home, they can't even calm down to pamper. They're still
No.
trying to hurry up and clean the house just before you get there, and they're
Yeah.
all stressed out, and then they apologize profusely the whole
Mhm.
time, and then they have to, so bringing them to you, I was able to pamper them more, and
Exactly.
so yeah.
Exactly. And that's what most of our clients have found out by coming to us now is they're getting this beautiful, relaxing service that they've not experienced in their home because they've been maybe helping a child with their homework while they got their pedicure done. So it's
Yeah.
almost that sense of there's like an exhale when you come into the salon now and you just take that break from everything. You need that. That's part of the service that we offer. So yeah.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
true.
Yeah.
So just to kind of touch base on some of the comments, Delia said that she originally went to school for music recording to be a recording engineer. And before that, she had gone to manicuring school. So she had somewhat of a similar story.
Oh wow, that's awesome. I'm still having a hard time seeing the comments here. They're not letting me look at them.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'll continue to read them on there.
Yeah.
Sometimes on your end, if you refresh it, it will
Yeah.
kind of bring
I'm
it
gonna
back up. But
I'm gonna try and do that really fast here so I can see some of those. But yeah, that's kind of how we got started. And even I feel like that my whole journey with the mobile manicurist has been all these little miracles that are stitched together in like this manicure quilt, if you will.
yes.
Um, because you think you're going to end up doing one thing and your life takes a path on something else. And I'm about to tell how old I am here, but I was almost 44 before I got my nail tech license. I just turned 51 this week, and
Oh
there's a
my
little
gosh.
bit. Yeah.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. There's a tiny bit of regret that I didn't do this earlier in my life, but on the flip side of that, I wouldn't have known to have done it earlier
Mhm.
in my life. And so everything that we go through, whether it's hardship or, living on top of the world or whatever, I feel like we can learn from all of those experiences that help us to be better people and better business owners. And I tell you, it's tough being in business, but it's even tougher if you're a woman in business because
Yeah.
it is so hard to manage everything that I have on my plate. I have to have people help me. I learned right away that I could not carry this weight by myself.
Mhm.
And still, I'm booked for 3 years. I have no openings for any clients personally for the next 3 years. And I just gave up. Some of my clients are watching. I just gave up 20 clients
Oh
um,
gosh.
because I commuted. My youngest daughter, who's 25, the one that went to hair school,
Yeah, is
is
she
a very
still doing hair?
successful salon owner. She
Yeah.
owns a salon an hour away from here, and I traveled there one day a week, and I would see 10 to 12 people there. And I just recently I gave them a 2 month notice, but I had to cut that, and by cutting that, I cut my income about $2,000 a month, and it's almost unheard of because people will leave a location because they're not busy. There
Mhm.
are nail techs that get out of the business every day because they don't have enough business. I'm on the flip side of that, and I left that location because I'm only one person, and my body cannot hold up to opening a salon here and an hour and a half away still commuting to it. So I have to rein that in, rein my schedule in. I need to be here at my headquarters more so I can train people to help me with this 3 year, wait
Yeah.
list I have. So,
So so let's go back just a little bit. So after a few years of being in the industry, at some point in time, you must have had this feeling that there was something more, there was a niche that you could bring.
yeah.
And so you became an educator. How did you get into the education side of it?
The education side did not come until later. I guess the first thing that I experienced was, because I went 4 years without knowing there was even a trade show. Somehow, the nail tech event of the Smokies came up in my Facebook feed, and that was actually the first show that I attended as a nail tech.
Yeah.
Um, so I got a good little taste of when I went there. I was like, wow, I didn't know all of this was available for nail techs, because you know where I was shopping? Cosmoprof. That's the only
Oh.
thing that's the only thing I knew about. Um, and I'm sorry, what was your question before that? I
Oh,
lost my train of
when you
thought.
get into education, but you just got me sidetracked because I thought, "Oh my gosh, how hard is it to be profitable when you're buying from
Yeah.
a retailer like that, rather than knowing that there's wholesalers and distributors that you can buy from so that you could buy in bulk and be
Yes.
more profitable." So I'm like, "Man, you are really working hard."
It was very
Yeah,
difficult. I had the science down because I'm a numbers person.
yeah, me
I
too.
I run my numbers like every day I look at who's on my books, who's on the girls books that work for me. Why did this person cancel? Yeah, I look at what's come in and what's gone out. And if you are not doing that as a business owner, let me just say right here, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So yes, for 3 years I shopped at only Cosmoprof, and here was my challenge with that is because in the state of Virginia, once you use a nail file, you got to throw it away.
yeah, that's how we are.
I could
Mhm.
get maybe 10, 20. I could never get over 20 nail files that were on their shelf. So I'd
Yeah,
buy everything. And then by the end of the week, I was going back there to see if they had something else, which they didn't. And I'll never forget, one day I asked them, I said, can you order this in bulk for me? And they're like, well, we don't really do that for anybody.
yeah,
And so then it dawned on me, I've got to find a source that I can get some bulk product, because we are really going through the stuff here. And so that first trip I made to the Smokies, I realized then that there were other options out there available for me. And that's when I learned about education. I learned about classes. I took a hand painted class there. And from then on, it snowballed because I met people there in the industry that kind of linked up with me and helped me through this journey I was on by myself, basically.
yeah,
Yeah, so once I found that out, then I could make friends with them on social media. And thank God for the power of social media, because there were a few that said, you know what, message me anytime if you have any questions. I will be glad to help you with that. And mostly it was product questions. Well, where do I get this? And where do I order a brush that looks like this? And how does this? I'll never forget Jennifer, the nail nana. Jennifer, is it
yeah,
Worth? Is that her last name? The nail
yeah,
nana. I
yeah,
met her the first time in Gatlinburg, and she was such a great resource for me. And of course, she'd taught at a nail school forever. I didn't know that. I only knew that she was receptive to me, and she told me that night I sat beside her. She said, "I'll help you with anything you need help with. All you got to do is message me." And sometimes I feel like as nail techs, we withhold information that we shouldn't.
mhm,
Um,
yeah,
there are people that won't like your post because they want to go copy that. They want to do that same thing themselves. It's okay. Anything I put out there, it's okay. I don't mind if you copy it. If I've got a design up and you want to use it, by all means, help yourself with that. Um, but there's still that little elite group that I feel like doesn't want to share information for whatever reason. And I know from being on both sides of the spectrum that I'll do anything to help anybody, because I was there
yeah,
once and didn't have any help.
yeah,
So yeah, I think that's very important for us. And sometimes our stuff is so close right here, whatever it might be. It may be that trying to open a new location, or we don't like where we're working, or we need to find some place to move our business. And so when we attend these trade shows, we're so concerned about our own problems. It's so big in our face. It's like blinders. It's like the horse that has the blinders on, and we're not focused on anything except us. But I've always prayed before every show that I go to that God will put somebody in my path that probably needed the help like I did, for me not to be so concerned with my own self and my own problems that I don't see that. Because I'm not a traveler. I hate to travel. It gives me great anxiety to the point that I don't even want to do it. And I can't believe that I actually do it, because I fly all over the country now. I travel by myself. It was something I had to get used to. And now that I have gotten used to it, I'm okay with it. But when I first started having to do that, I would worry greatly. I would stress so much over that. And that's not good either. But it's like it's a part of your career now. And that's just another little branch. The nail tech license is the trunk. If you think of a tree, that's your tree trunk, or that's your root. And then all the other little things that we do are the branches that come off of that. So early
Tracy,
on, when I
I
was,
say that
yeah,
so many times in
you
my
do.
workshops,
How
all
about that?
the time. I talk
Yeah.
about how we can grow our tree and
Hmm.
how the stability is there, and we can bloom whichever part of the branches that we want to, and
Exactly.
and make it as big as we want and bring as many, other people to join. Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to what you're saying.
Yeah, and just like, this aspect of my business where I've had to cut out these 20 clients, or traveling to the other location, that's like pruning my tree, because
Mm.
I am no good to even the my home location here, my headquarters. I'm no good to anything here if I am so spent and worn out from the travel, and just it's hard to do 10 hours of nails for me now a day, and I'm pulling about a 12 to 13-hour day. I was pulling 16-hour days, and I can already foresee myself, I need to rein in those 12-hour days to shorter days, because
Mhm.
physically, I had somebody tell me recently, I could pull a 12-hour day too if all I did was sit behind a chair and paint nails.
Oh my gosh, they have no
They weren't
clue
in the nail
everything
industry,
that
and they
can
weren't
go
one of my
through.
clients. But
Yeah.
that's what they see that we do, and they
Right.
have no idea of the strain, even physically on your
Mhm.
body, the toll it takes. I had a checkup this morning. Had I known they were going to draw blood, I'd have probably canceled that checkup, because I am not a needles person. And you're in for it when your doctor leaves the room and they say, so and so will be right in. She said, we're literally going to drain you today. I was like, oh my, I'm sure all the color drained out of my face.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. The point is, if we don't take care of ourselves and are not refreshing and refilling ourselves, we cannot give out to our clients, because it's about much more than polishing the nails. When
Yes.
you take a hold of that person's hand, they are telling you their life story, or they're telling you um, their experiences through the week, their problems. They just need somebody to vent to. And it's like the old saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in this room stays in this room, in
Yeah.
more ways than one. Because if we carry that home with us, and we're constantly letting those problems weight us down with everything else that we carry as business owners, we're going to be sick,
Yes. Absolutely.
physically, spiritually, mentally. We can't
Mhm.
let all of that stay on us and not refresh ourselves. And so, yeah, it can be said in this room. I will listen to my clients, I will listen to my students that are here, but I have learned not to take that home with me. I can't. I
Yeah,
can't.
absolutely.
Mhm.
I got to meet your honey.
Yeah,
He was your driver and actually
he
helped
was.
carry
Yeah,
a lot of your stuff. And what a sweet man. And
yeah,
I travel a lot as well, and I'm looking forward to the day that my husband and I can travel together.
yeah. Uh-huh.
But like you said, the work that we do before we go somewhere to educate, the people we have to always move around. Of course,
Mhm.
I'm like you, I schedule way in advance so that I don't have to sit there and cancel all of these
Exactly.
people. but to get our home in order, to get everything ready so that we can leave,
Hmm.
the guilt that we have that we're leaving, even though we're doing it for work,
Yes.
but it's because other people see it as that we're going on vacation. Like, I
Yes.
just got back from IBS. I was in Vegas for like a week. Let me tell you, there was no vacation
No,
there. I
it's
didn't even get
never
to go outside. People are like, "Oh, you looked so tan." I was like, "How? I haven't even been outside at all." Like,
yeah,
it's just you thinking that, you know? And
right.
so I agree. And then when we get back, the load that we have right when we get back, that
Mhm.
you have to mark those days off for what I call exhaustion days, which I just had 2 days off for that. I don't know how you travel as much as you do, but let's go back because you
Mhm.
travel with purpose and
Yeah,
you
I
travel
do.
and what you've created with your team. What
Yes.
I liked that you said, Tracy, is that some people hold things back a little bit when they educate.
Mhm.
That's actually one of the reasons why I got in as a consultant is because just like when we go to school, they teach you just enough. They don't teach you enough. They don't
Right.
teach you the success and all of that.
Mhm.
And I realized that there was this big area in there, like gray area, that people were not succeeding because of
Right.
that. Well, I wanted to clear the gray area, which means that I had to share everything that I
Mhm.
know. And I
Yes.
do. It all comes spilling out. I can't help it. It just does. I don't want to
Right.
hold something back. And
Right.
so you've done that.
Mhm.
And so did NTNA kinda get you started first, or did you start your team first?
The first I After I attended that nail show, I guess the first thing that kind of pushed me out there is Lauren Wireman. I worked
Mhm.
with her in Wildflowers for, I don't know, maybe a year or so. She needed someone to help with her demos at her trade shows. So
Yeah.
I would go and help her with demos or set up whatever they needed help with. So I did that for about a year, and then I got an email from Beth over at Nails Magazine.
Yeah.
She had seen some of my 3D work, and she's like, "You should really enter Nails Top Nail Artist." I said, "Oh no, I could never do that because the only 3D work I was doing was what I had watched the technique on YouTube. It was self taught, you know?" I was like, I could never do that. She said, "No, you should really think about it." So I thought about it and I did. And when I made that top 24, I was just really, really shocked because I didn't have the confidence in myself because I hadn't done that much of it. I had done one 3D competition at the Smokies. It was the first 3D I ever did, and the theme was going up. So I'd intended on doing Mary Poppins. And then at the
Um,
last minute, my daughter's like, "No, Mama, you should do James and the Giant Peach." Because they used to be their favorite movie.
yeah.
And so I did James and the Giant Peach. And lo and behold, I won that competition that year. Get this, I didn't even know about a nail tip holder. This is how naive I was as a nail tech. I was holding those nail tips with tweezers trying to do the 3D work on it. I had no idea. So then after I did a few classes, I picked up some tips like that. That was worth its weight in gold to me, you
Yeah.
know? I think sometimes we have a misconception when we go into a class that it's all going to be new knowledge for us. And most of the time it isn't. It's how we receive it. Those tips and tricks that you pick up along the way, you incorporate into your business then and do it differently. So I think we have to have an open mind when we take any sort of class like that. So I made the top 24 in Nails Top Nail Artists, and then there was, in order to make the top 18, there was a hand painted challenge, and I'm like, well, let me see if I can paint some people because I've never painted people before, and that's how my Michael Jackson nails were born. I had Beethoven and Michael Jackson and Prince all in the same nails, and it only took me 4 hours to paint all of those portraits and all the background. I was like, maybe this is not good enough. It didn't take me long enough to do it. But I'm like, oh, well, it looks pretty good. So let me go with that. And that was what stuck me in the top 12. And it just kept going and going and going. And so towards the end, I was like, somebody needs to eliminate me because I'm really having a hard time keeping up with Nails Top Nail Artists and seeing clients. Because remember, I had a full book of clients, and I
Mhm.
couldn't move clients to work on 3D. I had to do it around it. So I was working till 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning on these huge pieces, sleeping for a little bit and going right back out and running that mobile route the next day. It was exhausting.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
long story short, I came in third runner up in the world in nails, top nail artist. And when I started in TNA, I had 200 and some odd followers over on Instagram, and it blew up to about 38,000 before the end of that.
Wow.
So, and then it just, being an educator just happened. It's the same way the ladybug thing just happened. I'll explain that in a little bit. But somebody asked me, would you be willing to give a class? Teach us a class if I bring a few people? And I said yes before I even thought about how to prepare for it. So it just came natural. And that's how I got started as an independent educator. And now, even though I travel all over the place and teach for mostly orally and the Team Ladybug, I do the majority of my classes are private classes that people fly in, that I train them right here in this training center. Because to my knowledge, I'm the only educator that, number one, has a payment plan for all of my private students.
Oh,
And secondly, you don't have to bring anything. You can step right off a plane with no supplies, no lamps, no anything. I provide everything for
yeah.
my classes here. So that's just kind of how the education happened.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love your story
I just
completely.
I
And I
just
love
feel
it.
like you have to go with the flow on some things. I didn't
Mhm.
plan on being an educator, but that was another branch of the tree that just kind of grew, and I went with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Many times in my career, the door had opened, but because my babies were little and I lived in Wyoming, so no matter what I did, I had to travel.
Mhm.
I just couldn't leave them.
Yeah.
And so I had to wait, to be able to do this until my kids were getting off to college. And
Right.
so it was my daughter's junior year that I was like, "Okay, all right, this is what I've been waiting for, was this time frame that she'd be leaving. I gotta how do I get myself out there? I've been published
Mhm.
a few times, I've taught classes. How do you do it?" And so, I didn't have the backing of winning a whole bunch of competitions,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Somebody told me not too long ago, they said, Amy, the big difference in some places of the country is in the United States, it really is based off of sometimes your years in the industry and how much
Mhm.
you share. And if you're with a company, kind of thing. In
Yeah.
some other countries, it's because your titles that you hold. So I've
Okay.
had people say, I don't know who you are. I've never seen you compete, and I don't
Mhm.
see your trophies. But does that make you a less educator because you don't know
No.
how to do a competition now?
Exactly. No.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I just really had to say, then I'm just not the right fit for you. But then they
Right.
were like, wait a minute, I want to know more about you. And then I would tell them, and this is how I teach, and this is what I do. And they're like, oh, you are the right fit. And I'm like, but I'm not the one that has the big old trophies. I do for business. I've been,
Mhm.
nominated for business of the year. I have because I have the business mind,
Mhm.
but I'm a salon nail tech. I'm not a
Yeah.
competitor. And
Yeah.
so it was interesting hearing that because I was like, that's so true that sometimes we are prejudged
Yes.
by whatever
We
titles
are.
you hold.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you know what was really hard for me coming out of Nails Top Nail Artist is I had been on this spin for weeks of doing this very high end fantasy, just very difficult nail pieces. And when I got eliminated that week and I went back to just doing salon nail art, I felt like for about 6 weeks after that, I beat myself up because I would be like, these nails look terrible. This is just not good enough. But then my husband told me one day he had to get me back in line because we were talking about it over breakfast. He said, Tracy, he said, you are doing what your clients have asked for. They are happy with that. He said,
Yeah.
just because you've come out of doing all this grandiose type of work. He said, that's not what they wear in the real world. They can't go to
Mhm.
work as a nurse with, mushrooms on their nails or whatever. And it was a reality check for me. And I'm like, you know what? He's right. I need to
Mhm.
stop beating myself up. But it was just the fact of transitioning out of that work back into salon work like our clients wear every day, And I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of new nail techs are frustrated, is because your client will come in with this set of nails on Pinterest. We say Pinterest is the she devil in the nail salon, she the devil. Um, because they want a set of nails that probably have taken 8 hours to perfect and get that picture exactly right. And they
Yeah.
only are booked in with you for 75 minutes.
Mhm.
How are we going to recreate that?
And they wanna pay $40 for
Yes.
it when the product and the time that goes into that is way more.
Yeah.
And
And they
so,
want it to last for, 40 years,
yeah.
whatever. So that's a challenge. It's social media has made our job a little bit harder,
Mhm.
on in some aspects, a little bit easier on the other side of things, but back to the ladybug issue. When I first went into business, I was driving this little red Volkswagen, and I had some signs cut for the side. I had magnetic signs on it, and they kept blowing off. I'm like, you know what? I just need to get somebody to sign my car. And it was $250 to me at that time. That was a lot of money to me at that time. It might as well have been $2,500. But I worked and worked and worked and saved up that $250. And I was so proud of those two side doors that he'd done, but it just needed a little something. And he was like, well, you know what? He said, I had some black vinyl left. He said, why don't I cut some ladybug spots? She looks like a ladybug, and we'll just put those little spots on the car. I'm like, perfect. And that's how the ladybug theme was born for us. It wasn't anything planned. Later on, I find out that the ladybug is a sign of faithfulness. So how ironic is that?
I love it.
God has truly been faithful to me in my business, because when I went full time, remember that 6 weeks later that I had to quit my job to keep up with my clients? My responsibility was the house payment, and I knew that I had to make that house payment on commission. Now I was leaving a regular paycheck job for a commissioned job, and when somebody cancels, they don't always rebook. And so
Correct.
I had that figured out each week, what I had to make that $1,300 a month house payment. And somebody would need to move, and I would go into a panic, because I knew it would run me short. So that's why I overbooked myself, because I
Mhm.
allowed for those cancellations then.
Mhm.
And 8 years later, I'm still in that overbooking stage, but I'm learning how to not overbook now and how to scale back now. I'm just now to the point that if one of my clients cancels, or somebody needs to move, or somebody loses a job that they can't see me anymore, I don't go into that panic stage anymore,
Mhm.
because I'm not where the rubber meets the road. And that's really a good feeling to be. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of times I feel like people that come into our industry, that don't make it for whatever reason, maybe you're not as desperate as what I was. I was desperate. I had to make that money. I had to keep that roof over our head. And, I did it with God's help and his strength and the encouragement of my husband. I tell people all the time, my business is successful because of my husband's faithfulness, because he believed in me when nobody else did. And he's just such a great support system for me. He works all week, and being a pastor is not easy, but he'll work all week, 50, 60, 70 hours, and then he'll come in and clean my salon for me. And I don't even ask him to do that. So
Yeah.
I feel like for newbie nail techs, especially if you're not making it where you are, look at your support system you have around you. If you
Mhm.
don't have it at home, get it through another source. Link
Mhm.
up with people like us, like you, and like me, and like anybody else that can help encourage you to keep you going. And because if you have pressure put on you to perform, you're less likely to live up to those demands. Does
Mhm.
that make sense at all?
Absolutely.
And being a nail tech is not a hobby. It is a real job. It's a real career, and we need to start treating it like it's a
Mhm.
real job. You
It's
know,
so true. Yeah,
Running those
absolutely.
numbers every day like I do, while there's all of this new product coming out, I don't buy everything new that comes out because we don't need it. You see behind me? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We probably got 40 shades of red gel polish in here. Why do we need another one?
So
So
true.
I'm
Right.
only going to add the things into my inventory that I don't have. Uh, and we have a pretty good selection in here to start with. So I feel like by running your numbers and checking those things regularly keeps you on check with your spending as well. Because when we're spending more than what we're taking in, and hubby has to pay the booth rent for us, or somebody else has to
Mhm.
step in, somebody has to help us with electric or whatever, that's not
Mhm.
managing your business the right way.
Yeah.
And so all of those things come full circle in our business. And back to that
Absolutely.
part, if you're not a busy nail tech, if you're out there on your own and you're just not being able to make it like you would like to, link up with somebody that is busy. There's nothing wrong with not being able to make that on your own and going in and renting a booth or going on commission with someone else, because even commission nail techs, if they're paid the right way, they make good money. I
Yes,
know
they
all of
do.
my nail techs that work for me are paid on commission. Guess what? They all get a week's paid vacation from me as well. They get Christmas bonus. I don't take them for granted for anything because I want to provide a nice place for them to work and to provide a living for their family. So there's nothing wrong with being paid on commission if they're paying you the right way. Link
Absolutely.
up with somebody busy until you can build your business and catch their overflow. We need somebody now to catch overflow that could probably build a full clientele just
Mhm.
catching our overflow here. So you have to want it bad enough is the thing,
Yeah.
and you'll do anything it takes to make it happen.
Years ago, I had to learn my numbers because I just knew that when I got into the industry, and you guys know that I got in the industry in 92, I was charged
Mm.
stay the same.
Yeah,
Rent went higher, utilities went higher, taxes
yeah,
went higher. And it was like, but nobody else is raising their prices. They're still at the same too. Well, you know what? We were all in the same boat. None of us were making
exactly,
money. But we
exactly.
were always busy. And I
Uh
said, are
huh.
you being busy to just keep up? Are you being busy because you're productive enough to be
Hmm.
able to manage all of that, have an income? Like, I
Yes.
teach a class called Keeping Profits in Your Pockets. And actually, the Nails magazine put it in this month's issue. So I had to move my start date to July 8th because we were, collaborating on that. And so if you guys do not know your numbers, or you know
Hmm.
exactly what Tracy means about pulling your numbers, knowing your salon menu, knowing what products you can get, and limiting
Hmm.
that desire to get the latest in glitter that you probably already have 40 shades of the same similar
Right.
color, then and you're not being profitable, then a class like this, or like some of them that are offered online, you need to do
Hmm.
that. You
Yeah.
need to, or you're not going to last.
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody said to me not too long ago, they said, you know what, Amy, I've never had to pay in taxes at the end of the year. And I go, then you've never
Oh,
been profitable.
right.
By now, if you've been in business for a few years, you need to be paying quarterly taxes. You need to know
Exactly.
all your write-offs. You need to have a plan of what you can do for trips for the write-offs. And so when they were like, "Oh yeah, I've never had to pay," and I go, "Then you've never been profitable. Do you realize
Hmm.
that? That's what
Yes.
that means." Yeah.
Yes, that's one reason that I teach the class from bankrupt to booked up. I've never been bankrupt, thank
Yes.
God, but I've been so tight that I really couldn't do anything except pay bills. I was like the hamster in the wheels, just spin, 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 spin. I couldn't even buy clothes, if I wanted to go go treat myself to something. And there's only so long you can do that without feeling like something has got to give. There's got to be something else out there. So yeah, that's where that class was born out of, and that class actually teaches you how to check your numbers and run those numbers and see what's going in and what's coming out. Statistics show that when you are 85% booked, you got to do one of two things. You either got to hire someone or you have to raise your prices. And the reason for that is if you are 100% booked, when your regular client, when it comes around for Mother's Day and her mom is in town and she would like to treat her for her nails, you have no place to do that
Yeah.
for your regular clients.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you that love to book prom nails, if you're more than 85% booked, you can't take any special occasions like that. And secondly, I feel like if I'm more than 85% booked, I'm not really even spending time with my family and my three sweet little grandsons, you know? So that is, and I am more than 85% booked. I'm going to admit that right here online. I am going to tell the truth, but I am making changes. I've done a major cutout this year. I guess the last 9 months of me being in business has been the most stressful of my lifetime, literally. You know, my dad had a major stroke just before Christmas,
Yeah.
and that's hit our family pretty hard. And just some other things. We sold our house. We bought this cute little lake cottage that we were just going to paint and put new floors in. And the whole thing was misinspected, and we've had to gut the entire house. It's just been one thing right after another. But what has stayed consistent is business. Business has stayed consistent. Paychecks have stayed consistent. We've opened a salon. We opened this brick and mortar in January, and by the end of March, our business had almost doubled here, and we were already busy. So
Yeah.
we just hired another nail tech and probably going to hire one more just to help us here try to I guess try to get some balance. I don't really know how to say it other than that, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
in order for me to pack for a trade show, guess what? I got to move clients.
Yeah. Yep.
So the goal for me is to rein in my clients to 2 to 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are 85% booked and you have to raise your prices, if you have somebody else that works on staff with you and their prices are a little bit lower, then that's how you can filter those clients down. Is and two, maybe the ones that can't afford your prices will go down. They'll stay with your company, but they'll see somebody that you have trained and that they feel comfortable with, and you still can keep that client within the scope of your business.
Wow.
So it's just lots
I
of, it's like an onion. It has so many layers to your business. You know, you sometimes you don't know where to start for sure.
Yeah, but somewhere along the way, you've met the right people, maybe
Yeah,
talked to you like
yeah,
me, I've talked to my accountant a lot and
yeah.
said, "Educate me. I
Mm-hmm,
need to know how to do this. I want to be successful," and
mm-hmm.
then, retain that and surround yourself with that. If you guys have ever been to, Tracy's booth, you guys are in for a treat. You know that she goes all out. I mean,
Yeah.
her booth is decked out, and the lighting is spot on. And she has all her glitter out there on these beautiful little like cake kind of trays and
Uh-huh.
platters and stuff. And you get to like make your own glitter
Yeah.
and name it. She gives you a birth certificate for it. It is the cutest, funnest little thing. I love your innovation every step of the way from the Team Ladybug and your business and what you're
Yes.
doing with your classes all the way to your trade shows of how they're set up and the detail that goes into each thing. I just can only imagine what your house looks like. I mean, just
Uh, right
the
now it's a
perfect.
train wreck
Oh,
because of the renovation that we're under.
right,
You
right.
know, I'm a type A person, and type A people want things done yesterday. So it's drove me crazy to live in a house with no finished kitchen for 6 weeks now. And we're still not at the end of the tunnel there, but we'll get there eventually. But you know that I feel like that's all part of branding your business is keeping everything within that little scope of how you like it, even down to the colors that we put in our training center here.
Yeah.
They're my company colors. My company colors are red, black, and white. My little jacket I have, it's all branding,
Mhm.
from down to the business card to the packaging to everything. So it's a lot to think about
Yeah.
when you think about,
Even
a service clients. I have a staff. I have a store. I travel, and how I ended up with Orally is they recruited me from the Nails Top Nail Artist, the awards ceremony we went to that night. They talked to me that night about coming on board with them, and of course they were great about giving me some time to think about it and just different things like that. But ultimately, they made me an offer that I couldn't refuse, and And so to be involved on that side of things, I've got to work on photo shoots. I've, flown to LA last year more than I could count even on two hands, and did behind the scenes video shoots with them. Things I've never got to do before. And while it's a little bit intimidating, I'll admit, because I have just a tiny bit of a country accent, and to go to Los Angeles and work for several weeks out of the year, it's eye opening. Number one, but number two, it teaches you a lot about other sides of the industry, which I'm always about learning something new. Hello, did I lose you? I think I lost you.
Tracy, come back. I'm back, but Tracy's not back.
Hello, are we back?
Okay, Tracy.
Are we back?
If this is working and you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh my gosh. Then go back to the link that I sent you and re-click it and see if that will bring you back on.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
I can see you on here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh no.
Hello?
So weird. We're both on, but I can't see you on the screen. Let me turn this on.
I'm here.
I can see you on here.
I'm here.
Okay. So
Hear me?
there might be a delay. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but Tracy, I'm now with you on my phone. Oh, and now you're gone. Ah! No!
Hello?
So weird. We're both on, but I can't see you on this screen. Let me turn this on.
I'm here.
I can see you on here.
I'm here.
Okay. So
Hear me?
there might be a delay. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but Tracy, I'm now with you on my phone. Oh, and now you're gone. Ah! So what's going on? Let's try this again. Are you there?
Hello?
Ah, I think we got it.
I can't see. Wait, here we go. Here we go. I can see you.
Okay. So it's not live yet on TikTok again. It still says it will resume in a minute, but I know that we're live.
Okay. Hello. Can you see me and hear me?
I can, yes.
Awesome. Good. Okay.
Well, you never know what happens, and we
Right?
never know why. Oh my goodness. Thanks for hanging in with that,
Yeah,
Tracy, because
no
you
worries.
never know what happens,
It's okay.
and
No
we
worries.
can never explain it, but okay. Crazy, crazy, crazy. To go back to the conversation we were talking about with Team Ladybug, one, I want to get onto why you started it, how you started it, and then, I mean, I know the process that you went through to bring people on board because at one time I kind of applied, but I realized
Yeah.
I at the time had other things going on as well, and my plate was so full. And as
Yeah.
much as I wanted to join it, I just couldn't get it figured out. But I want to tell you that today, if you guys look down, see the red? I did that in honor of Tracy. However, last year, I had a client come into me and she wanted ladybugs on her nails. And I always put gel on top of it and make them 3D ladybugs.
Yes.
And it's something that she gets every year. And she's like, you know what? At the hospital where she works, in the window seal, there was a turquoise ladybug. And
Oh,
she goes, I
wow.
want a turquoise ladybug. And I was like, turquoise? Like, I had no clue, besides like orange and different shades of red, that there are lime green, neon orange, purple, turquoise, every color ladybug out there. And so
Yeah.
I too have looked up the definition of why they even change colors, and it's to look toxic to something in their area so they don't
Hmm.
get eaten. It was, they are so beautiful. So
Hmm.
what inspired you and got you to start Team Ladybug?
Um, One of the main reasons that I started Team Ladybug is after I came out of Nails Top Nail Artist, it's easy to judge yourself when you're being judged.
Yeah.
And that's the whole part of that competition is I started looking at things differently. And I would see other artists who were just as good as I was or even better, but they were kind of like I was in the beginning. They had nobody to help them through. Their talent wasn't being discovered, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I started Team Ladybug is because I saw things in people that they had great talent and it wasn't being recognized in the industry.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't for people who knew how to do everything, and it wasn't for while we have had fabulous artists in Team Ladybug, it was created out of the need for, hey, let's get you some exposure because you're good and I see it in you, but I also see that you could do better with a little bit of refinement in your
Oh,
skills.
yeah.
So that's how Team Ladybug was born. And you start something and you think it's going to go one way, and then again, it goes off on a whole nother course. And that's kind of how Team Ladybug has been because the first year of Virtual Design Team, we operated differently than we did the second year. And now we're getting ready to go into the third year, which is going to be completely different. Nail trends change about what, every 8 weeks?
Right, exactly.
And so, in order for Team Ladybug to keep up with those nail trends, we have to keep changing and refining. And what worked the first year is not going to work the third year. So, this year, when we had Team Ladybug applicants, we had to split that up into levels. We can no longer train what I consider a level one artist on the same level as a level three artist would be. So, we split those teams up, and actually took less people on those teams because it was getting quite large, and I can't manage that by myself. It's hard to teach a class with 30 people in it, even
Yes.
for a trade show class, much less a class that they're here every day for 5 weeks, 5 weeks, 5 days. By then, they're starting to get tired of each other and they get on each other's nerves, and you can't get around and help everybody that needs help. And then, so it just made sense to split that out into the levels. And we have, so level one this year doesn't mean that you're a new nail artist. It means that you could maybe use some help in certain areas of your skill sets. And so that is called Team Baby Bug, not
I
Team
literally
Ladybug,
love
but
it.
that is Team Baby Bug.
Oh,
So the mid level is Design Team Ladybug. And what the mid level will do is just very high end design work that you can use in the salon, you know, beautiful nail arts and that kind of thing. And then the last level that we put together is Fantasy Team Ladybug. And Fantasy Team Ladybug, if you're on that team this year, you better not submit anything that can be worn physically. It's all things that you would never walk out of the salon with, period. So that allowed artists to choose what level they wanted to be trained on. And I think, well, I know that's going to be a smoother transaction this year with the training aspect of things. So
wonderful.
it was just a risk that you take when you have a vision like that and you want to see something come forward. From the first year that we did it, 12 weeks after we introduced the design team, we'd already been published in Nails Magazine. So, and it's
Yes.
just we've continued to get sponsorships from very high end companies. This year, Orally has jumped on board and they're our official gel sponsor. So every member of Team Ladybug that trains this year is going to get a hefty gel kit from
Nice.
Profiles. Those Tracy and Amy have just been fabulous. They are the official art sponsors this year. So this year the focus is changing just a little bit, as far as this year we'll be promoting the designer and not the product. So I think that's, well, I should say along with the product.
Right,
It
right,
would
right.
kind of be in conjunction. So it's just one of those things that, like I said, it happened and you kind of went with it.
I
So
could always tell when you had a different challenge coming through because on Tech Talk Worldwide, when we go through to approve some of the posts, all of a sudden Team Ladybug was like every single post. And this is what I did with, and so to kind of give an idea a little bit more, you come up with a theme.
yes,
They have this is the product that they have to do, just kind of
hmm
like NTNA was set up to do. And then do you give them a deadline that by a
we
certain day
do.
they have to submit in? Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, like one month, we got a cuticle oil, and the challenge was you got to figure out different ways to use this cuticle oil then besides putting it on your cuticles. You would not believe, we got published for that challenge. People made sugar scrubs from it. They made lip balms. They made hair conditioners. You just wouldn't believe how creative the designers got with that. And one month we were given just clear gel. Well, you better not submit just a set of clear gel nails. You got to think outside that box. It was unbelievable what these designers thought of. We had jewelry. We had I think there was a pageant crown one month. It was just, it blew my mind to see how they could all think outside the box. And in our salon, I have done custom jewelry for people early on that I was doing prom nails for. We did their jewelry to match out of nail supplies.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to see the different aspects of what you can create with your nail products, especially those that you buy that you're not using.
Yes. I forget the name. It was one of your girls on Team Ladybug. And I don't want to get it wrong because I have two in my brain that I keep going between that I'm like, I know I'm going to get it wrong if I say it. And she took her oil and actually oiled a box, a wooden box, and then had decorated
Leela, that was
Leland
Leela.
Ruff,
Huh?
yes, and then, had decorated the top of it
Yes.
using some of the techniques, and at that time, I can tell you, it was because of her that I'm like, "I want to be a part of this so bad."
Yeah.
What you've created, even people that have been, top techs to the newest, give us an opportunity where we could freely do whatever we
Freely
want.
create. Yes.
Oh,
Freely
I think what
create.
you created is phenomenal.
Yeah, and not what that does is, you don't only do it for that designer, but what that does is for the rest of the group is, for me especially, looking in on what they create, you're like, wow, I didn't know that could be done. Or something like, wow, look what she's done with this. I would have never thought of that. And each person thinks of something differently. And that's the beauty of seeing the diversity in a challenge like that are all given the same product, but you want to see how many ways that you can create with that. Secondly, the team functions as like we want to be there for new nail techs that need support, whether they have product questions or just like me doing all my shopping at Cosmoprof, I needed resources that I didn't have and I didn't know who to ask. And so we freely give out that kind of information and resources. Well, here's where you can get this. And we're all the time sharing coupons with each other. And, if one of us knows of a big sale going on, we always promote that on our social media because you never know who is going to see that might need it. And I know we were at nail camp recently together, and there were a lot of just little baby nail techs there that were either in nail school, they had just been
Yes,
licensed, or there was one there that had only been in nail school for 1 week.
I know.
And I feel like they were given gold there as far as their training and information goes. And what we want to do, we want to keep cultivating those nail techs because let's face it, the longer time stands, the older we get, and the
Yeah,
less that we're going to be able to pull the work that we need to pull. And we better be training some young people to step up and come up in our places, because if not, the nail industry, 10 years from now, where is that going to be? And we should be thinking about the nail industry just like we do our family, our church, anything else, of helping cultivate that so it can continue like we want it to.
absolutely. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, you are so inspirational. I've been
Aw,
wanting you on the show for a while, and it was kind of a
yeah,
hit and miss for a while, but it,
yeah.
I loved getting to meet you because before, I think we were set to do it before we actually met at nail camp. And then once I had met you, I was even more excited knowing that it was coming up. And
Exactly.
if you guys ever get a chance to meet Tracy in person, she is exactly who she is right now. She's very sincere. She listens. She shares everything. Absolutely beautiful inside and out. And where
Thank you.
you are going in our industry and what you're creating for other techs, I'm like you. I like to grab the students
Yeah.
because they've not always been properly trained and they don't know where to go, what to do. And
No.
so, yeah.
Well,
Tracy, Sarah's on here and she wants to know where you're located.
I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm in Central Virginia. We live close to an airport. We're in a city that has 5 universities here, so there's always Uber and Airbnb. I think some people when they come in for classes, they're like, "Oh, do you have Airbnb or do you have Uber there?" Yes, we do. We're just because of the country accent doesn't mean we're out in the middle of nowhere. We're in a pretty good little size city, nice little town, very safe here. So, yeah, I have nail techs that travel in on a monthly basis, usually 2 to 3 times a month. I'm doing private classes for people. And let me just say something about a private class, because when you do a class at a trade show, you're getting the highlights. What we can do there. There's no way I can do an in-depth class at a trade show. I'm just giving you little
Mhm.
bits and pieces and getting you familiar with product or whatever. And if that's all the classes that you're taking are trade show classes, you need to really invest in more of an in-depth class and just compare the two. Secondly, I am a person that doesn't function well with lots of background noise and lots of commotion going on. So it was a struggle for me, even with the first couple of trade show classes I took, to stay focused. So
Yeah.
if you're that person, get in a private class, call me.
Mhm.
I would love to work out something for you. And the third thing about a private class is you can ask me anything. If you're sitting in front of me and you're here for 2 days and you leave not knowing everything you wanted to know, it's probably your fault because you didn't ask me.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're already here, just pick my brain for a while. It's no holds bar. But usually by the second day, by the end of the first day, my private students are like, wow, they just really get overwhelmed because we can work at a much faster rate one on one than what we can in a class with 12 people per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
a classroom setting is not for everybody. private classes are not for everybody. You got to find which one you work best in and what gives you the most amount of education for you
Mhm.
for the money, because private lessons may not be for you. You might get too overwhelmed. So you have to figure out how you work best
Yep, absolutely. And with what product? I mean,
and with
sometimes
what
people
product. Yes.
specialize in certain ways and they say, "I never got it to work. I never got it to work." And either one, you weren't properly trained, or two,
Mm-hmm.
it just wasn't your good match. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we end this, we've been way over an hour, and I apologize that for some reason we had a glitch in the middle of this, but we obviously need to get all of your social medias into the comments where people
Yes.
can follow you.
Uh-huh.
So I don't. So if you could read off really fast, so
Uh-huh.
that not only is it verbal, but in the writings, how do people get a hold of you to do some one-on-one training?
They can message me on Facebook. They can message me through my Instagram. I will link my Instagram below. My Instagram is 2 words: mobile manicurist.
Hmm.
Facebook is my name, Tracy Salyers Vinson. I'll accept anybody's friend request. If you're nail tech, I'm happy to do that. You can also go over to our business page, which is the mobile manicurist, and
Okay.
message me there. And we have a very flexible payment plan. If you're wanting to do a private class, all we require is $100 deposit to hold the date, and that's only because I am so booked. I usually have people lined up trying to get those dates, and then we'll work out the payment plan from there on the classes for sure. But
That's
I will
wonderful.
be at Gatlinburg in next weekend is the Nail Tech event of the Smokies. Our traveling do-it-yourself glitter bar is coming in
Ah,
conjunction with. I am newly the new East Coast distributor for Orally now. So if you use Orally product, maybe you don't, maybe you do. We ship every day here, so it's easy to get your product quicker on the East Coast from us than having it shipped all the way from California. So we'd be happy to take care of you there. Our online store is moving its post format. So we have that going on as well. But anyway, I can answer all those questions online. But I will, in the comment section, I'll put my Instagram and my contact and my phone number. You can feel free to text me from there as well.
absolutely wonderful. Oh, Tracy, what a delight to be able to have you on the show
It's
and to
such
be
a
able to.
pleasure. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
And thanks again for sharing your knowledge openly and
Yeah,
freely like that you do. And that's what makes you an exception to, so many that are out there. And I would love to take a class of you. You just
I
always
would love to
inspire me
have
every
you.
time I'm around you.
Two
Yeah.
talkers. My husband says I'm the only woman he knows that can talk an onion bag into holding water. I said, no,
Oh,
I met somebody else that can do that. Her name's Amy.
no, I can. You know what it is though? I'm passionate about what we do. And I think there's so many aspects about our industry that we can talk about. We can talk
Yes.
about from the client side of it to our own experiences of what we've had. And the longer that we're in the industry, the more stories we have to tell. And oh yeah, I can talk.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we have Tech Talk Live is because I can talk.
Yes. Well, thanks, Amy, for having me on today.
Thank you, Tracy. Once again, if you could put your links into the comments, we'll
Yep.
get that going. And as you guys well know, if you want to join in the comments of Tech Talk Live and you have any questions, even if it's on replay, you can post it, tag myself or tag Tracy in the comments, and then that way we can get back to answering you or private message us as well. The Tech Talks are promoted in the event section of Tech Talk Live. If you click going, Facebook should send you a reminder the day
Mhm.
before and an hour before, and it translates it to your time zone because I always post them in my time zone. And then from there, you can join in and be a part of our Tech Talk Lives. If you've missed one, you can go over to my YouTube channel, and we upload them all on there. That way, they're always available for replay so that you can continue to get this knowledge and continue to reconnect and go, oh, yeah, I remember that on Tech Talk. I heard that about Team
Yeah.
Ladybug. And how did I do that again? And you can go in and you can find that. So,
Yeah.
again, Tracy, thank you for your
Yep.
time. Thank
You're
you
very
for
welcome.
7 years being
Yes.
the powerhouse
Aw,
woman to inspire all of us to know that it doesn't matter if you've been in the industry for 27 years or 7 years. You
yes,
have a mark and you
you
have your
do.
role and you
You
can do
do.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much.
weekend.
You as well. Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Thanks for
Bye, guys.
having me.